the youth know, like they want to play with each other. That's the fountain of youth. It's like, how many people can you play with in a day? You want to be young? Go play with like as many people as possible, and you will be transformed.
All right. Welcome, Sim.
Thank you.
I thought we'd get started just having you tell me a little bit about what you do.
Hmm. All right. Well, I'm in my massage slash body work slash yoga, laughter, trigger point therapy room. So ultimately, what I do is I invite people into the world of touch as their first access point to the awareness of where they're at in their life, what stresses they're holding emotionally, mentally, physically. And from there, I guide them into releasing that joyfully. And I do that through laughter, trigger point therapy, which is my own discovery that laughing is an incredible way to release not just, you know, from a funny thing said or a humorous moment, but actually as a somatic way to physically release whatever trauma is there, whatever stress is there, and it gets people breathing. And it also takes out all the meaning that there's a problem about the stress in their body. That's what I love the most about what I do is I get people out of their problem. My life is a problem. What I'm doing to myself is a problem. And I create a possibility of being playful with what I call the buddy instead of the body. I'm like, be playful with your buddy. Like, just this is where it is right now, and it's doing a great job. And let's start with giving it some endorphins with a ha ha ha, and using dopamine and the serotonin and the oxytocin, basically this joyful cocktail that then allows for silence to happen, allows them to drop in really quickly and engage the parasympathetic nervous system. And then we get to play in life, and then I coach them and I do yoga with them because then their body wants to move, and I ask them questions that take them into the next level of their life, instead of looking at the problem. I have them look at, you got it, now you got play, let's go out there and do it.
Your program is quite unique. I remember when I first met you, you were really focusing on laughter yoga,
Hmm.
right? Can you talk a little bit about what laughter yoga is, how it's different from
Hmm.
traditional yoga?
Yeah, sure. Well, in essence, what I was describing, the laughter trigger point therapy, that is laughter yoga. Laughter yoga is an incredible, remarkable way to shape shift from one emotion to the next emotion. It makes us emotionally intelligent. And it was started by the founder of it, Madan Kataria, a family physician in India in 1995, and his wife, Madhuri Kataria, who was a yoga teacher. And what science he discovered was that the body cannot differentiate between a real laugh and laughter done as an exercise. So, as to just lean in and laugh into whatever is happening, even if it's not the most, remarkable moment in our life, it creates a sense of freedom and vitality. And when done in groups, we heal ourselves and our life situations by laughing about them. And then we can go on our way with a spaciousness that it's not a problem, that this is just life. And then we can choose from a different place of responsiveness rather than reactivity, be in a place of generosity rather than selfishness, be in a place of peacefulness and acceptance rather than resistance and control. And generally, we see the news is this is wrong, this is wrong. And laughter yoga says, this is what is happening. It's not ideal, but we learn to laugh with what is, and then we can create something new. And we do that through some breath exercises, traditional inhales and bring the elbows down and laugh hails. Or we do this through playfulness based exercises, like pointing at that one thought that is very bothersome, like the one I came in with, like, I seem to schedule myself too tightly, and to laugh about it and not let it dominate life. And then ultimately, there's some more childlike playfulness exercises, like pretending to be, a butterfly, which brings us back to our childlike innocence and presence, while also still being an adult, or as they say in laughter yoga, an alight.
One of the things you and I have done together, which I find very intriguing, and what I appreciate about you is you have had me do a practice with you where we take turns lamenting
Mm-hmm.
and we're laughing uh, at hearing us ourselves
Uh-huh.
and the other person lament. So these are genuine complaints,
Yes.
genuine judgments
Yes.
of negative judgments specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are laughing at it. Can you say more about that? What is going on there? And you might have already covered it.
Well, on one level, my current clientele in coaching is I work with fathers with young children who are feeling overwhelmed by being a parent, having a business, that balance of never ending to do lists. And the problem of sometimes being a father or a man is that being emotionally expressed is generally not encouraged. Anger is like the one that we're kind of allowed to have, but also shamed in having. And so then the rest of them are like, well, keep it to yourself. But when we do what we did together, which is such a powerful practice of just name the thing that seems to dominate my life in the moment, which might be the judgment of, you never seem to arrive early, even though you promise that you will. Laughing about it, now I'm free. And that thought will likely come back. And I may, in fact, not ever become an early arriving person. But that may not be true. So laughter just gives us that freedom that not just men or fathers are seeking, but every human being is seeking a sense of freedom from their mind to be free to play like children in the moment, be present. It's ultimately a presence practice. And when we laugh at what we lament, we get back to what we're meant to be, who we're meant to be, like alive, you know?
So it's an acknowledgement of reality. The philosophy isn't a bypassing philosophy. I'm interested to go into the mechanisms as far as we can go,
Mm-hmm.
and how, because I'm very curious how that works. That's
Yeah, let's go there.
there's a out, yeah, and before we go there, and maybe a way into that is I'll play devil's advocate a little bit. When I hear about laughter at the negative things, the image that comes to mind is the Joker,
Uh-huh.
right? Which is not a positive image.
Mm-hmm.
It is a real image, or at least a real perspective,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but it's cynical. So contrast yourself with the Joker.
Well, the Joker is trying to manipulate the circumstances to get something. Laughter isn't about getting something or getting anywhere or even changing the situation. And that's not easy to get, but I'll say it again, that laughter yoga really isn't about, changing our circumstances, fixing ourselves, fixing others, having a therapeutic cathartic breakthrough. It just so happens that that does happen. um, Not every time, but what it does do, specifically, is I would reframe and say we're not actually laughing at. The Joker's laughing at you, at me. Ha ha. Like, ha ha, like I got you. We're laughing with what is happening.
Hmm.
We're laughing with each other's lives, not about it being the way it is. We're just laughing with to create a space for our humanity and for a space for what seems at times like a disaster, right? Because we're not
Yes.
always up, we're not always down. And from there, there's the opportunity to be present again and actually feel grief and feel shame and feel guilt and feel resentment and resignation and anger and just uncertainty and overwhelm and like that whole cocktail of life is heavy and I don't want to be in it to
Yes.
oh, sucks. It does suck. Life really does suck sometimes.
Yes. So, ironically, this laughter isn't a positive perspective. It's intimately connecting with reality, your reality, as you're experiencing it. And the laughter is an acknowledgement, essentially. So that I didn't make that point as clearly as I would like to, but what I get is normally we think of laughter as something that happens only during happy moments. And so we associate it with happiness. I will say one thing where how I can relate to this, or where I've heard something like this before, is with traumatic situations in war, where the soldiers are experiencing atrocities, and they have to talk about the atrocities,
Hmm.
but they do it with humor.
Hmm.
You know, for instance, their friend got napalmed, and they call their friend a crispy critter.
Hmm.
They can't say that my friend's napalm, that's a little bit rough. But what they
Hmm.
can do is make a joke about it, and they're still saying the same truth,
Hmm.
but they're bringing humor to the situation. So they're metabolizing reality in a completely different way. I brought up the word alchemy. Alchemy, as I see it, it's metaphor for transmuting lead into gold. Sounds like that's what you're doing. Do you think of it in the alchemical metaphors?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I love that. It is a transmutation of what is heavy, lead, into what is light, gold. And the heavier it is, the more light can become available if the right amount of, pressure, awkwardness, acknowledgement, safety is created. That's where, you know, laughter can feel like you're laughing at me if it's not contextually created that this is a healing for you. One very stark difference I would say is, when a child falls, on the playground and people laugh at that child, like it's a heavy moment. They're bleeding. The kids may be laughing at that child that fell and that child is crying and it's humiliating. And the laughter actually becomes a weapon. Mark Twain says that laughter is actually our greatest weapon. Why did he say that? Why is laughter such a powerful weapon? Because it creates story. It's a somatic story where it can be a trauma or a freedom, right? Like if that child laughed with the bullies or with those that were laughing, not bullies, but just those laughing, that could have been just like a funny moment that just kind of rolled off. Wow, I just bleed and I get up and and those friends might just be like, "Whoa, you're a powerful, courageous person," right? But on the other hand, if I'm that kid and I fell and I'm on the ground crying and I take that in, I may have the experience that, you know what? I really am not good at this game. And look, they proved it to me. They're laughing at me. I'm an outlier now. I'm no longer welcome. I don't belong here. I should quit playing sports. I'm clumsy. So I'm just going to get small and just stay with things that don't make me feel clumsy or might create the circumstance for that. Now, on the other hand, one video I watched of a laughter yoga, and it was quite bizarre, but because I've taught laughter yoga for a while and had my own traumas and used laughter when my father had died and I needed to grieve and process emotion, I saw this one woman who had terminal cancer, and she would just say, "I've got terminal cancer." And she would laugh. And all these women in this group named what type of cancer they had, and then they would laugh about it. Now, if you saw it on YouTube, you'd be like, they're nuts, they're crazy. But no one knows what the internal experience is of feeling like you're going to die. You know, you could die on any day, you know. And so, how do you process and confront and transmutate that stress of the daily stress? And everyone's got a certain amount of it, and sometimes it's more or less, into an opportunity for connection, vulnerability, and even joy, I dare to say. That was Madame Kataria's plan, was to choose joy in the face of fear and obstacles, even if we don't feel like it's time to be joyful. And that tradition also exists in Judaism. Rabbi Nachman said, you know, act as if you're joyful, even if you're not, to move from depression out. And it's dangerous. It could be a bypass, right? It could be a bypass. And there's also an opportunity of, okay, this might be a bypass, and name it, and still choose to acknowledge and look around and be grateful for what is working. And that's where it's really leading towards is, well, all seems bad, but if we laugh, we get perspective and can become appreciative and grateful of the magic of the ordinary moment that we're in right now.
How do you coach the newbie, the beginner,
Mm-hmm.
who might, we might have a tendency to bypass an oopsie daisy
Mm-hmm.
or stay in the lament and the negative? How do you coach somebody to maintain that integration of the being with reality and moving towards joy?
Well, by naming that, one, we will bypass by our nature. We're going to do that. And that laughter, in essence, even if we do bypass, like if I bypass the emotion of, you know, my wife is 20 weeks pregnant, coming up on Friday, and if I bypass, which I do on a, you know, periodically, the anxiety that I have around becoming a father again, the sleepless nights, the, you know, all those possible negatives, you know, if I bypass and say, well, I'm happy, I'm just happy about becoming a father.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be so great. You know,
Sleeping's boring.
so ultimately, as you can see, I can bypass it, but I can't lie in my laughter. There's no lying. You can hear if I'm lying. Like if I said again, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of becoming a father again. That's called the laugh of recognition that, you know, clearly I do have fear. And so laughter is very much like the practice that I introduced you to a ways back, or that you've studied with Wim Hof, is you can't lie about what's happening when you walk into ice lake. Can't can't lie when you have a cold shower on you. Like if I looked at you, I would know what you were experiencing.
Yes. However, you're right, I can't lie, but I can have a useful narrative that this cold bath I'm about to take is useful,
Yeah.
is helpful, is good.
Yes.
It's good for me.
That's right.
It's cold as
Right.
hell,
That's right.
and it's good for me. And that makes all the
Right.
difference.
Yeah. And you go in. How long do you go into the shower periodically when you do?
1 to 2 minutes.
Okay. So you could, and this is my coaching for the newbie who has that. I say, well, for 1 to 2 minutes, you could laugh and make up the narrative that even though it sucks at the beginning, often, but not always. The benefits of laughing with what we lament, the benefits of laughing with what we anticipate will stress us out in the day, the laughing with our bodies as they are, with our digestion the way it is, that there's something that happens by just choosing to do that, that then allows us to set aside, that could allow you and others to just set aside, set down that same cake, way of being, that just usurps energy instead of children. They just don't hang on long. They get back in the game of life. So, do
Yeah.
we want to be in the game, or do we want to be in the stands talking about the game and criticizing those involved in the game, or like be in the game and like have the experience?
So my propensity in life, as you know, is to go the opposite way.
Uh-huh.
So if I'm going to, caricature both of us, you have a propensity of going into the idealism of positivity, and it's an idealism.
Yes.
And I have the opposite, where I'll go into the idealism of melancholy.
Uh-huh.
And I can take that cold shower two ways. I can take it, just really buying into my uh, complaining,
Hmm.
sadness. I can just fall into a pit, or I can acknowledge that somebody's not happy about this cold shower
Yeah.
and witness the complainer and the sadness and be with and it's just a cold shower.
Hmm.
So what I mean by it's just a cold shower is that there's a cold shower and then there's a story about a cold shower.
Hmm.
And for you, it's like I have cancer, and then there's my story about cancer. What I've really pulled from what you said, the laughing at the complaint isn't a story that it's okay.
Hmm.
It's not a story that it's good. It's the laughter is just a way to metabolize reality, to be
Yes.
with it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. That's, yeah,
Right.
right on. And I would name, if you thought about for a moment when a polar bear is tranquilized, shot with a tranquilizer, and I've seen this video, and humans walk towards the tranquilized polar bear. It knows that humans are walking towards it, and it feels fear, and the way in which it deals with its fear is it shakes. It shakes. It shakes itself until it shakes out the stress and fear in its nervous system enough to allow to come to terms with what's happening. It's not thinking I need to shake. It's like, I'm going to do it. And what we're actually doing when we laugh is we are shaking internally, and we are exercising literally half the muscles in our body, from our lower dantian, our navel point, all those abdominal muscles, front to back, rib cage, spine. And you can laugh with your whole body. So we're actually shaking out, inside out, the equated stress that is in our body regarding the story that we have. And so we're somatically just releasing and digesting and processing stress real time right away. And it's weird sounding and looking, but as my sister-in-law said, she's like, "You're just making sounds." I'm like, "Yes, you're right. I'm making sounds, but I'm also moving my diaphragm up and down, massaging my intestines, my digestive system, which releases serotonin, massaging the heart." It creates a sense of oxytocin, trust, and then dopamine, a reward, a physical runner's high from doing it. It's pretty amazing. And then the endorphins, pain relievers. I mean, so in essence, it's just confront. We're confronting, we're poking, to some degree, poking, provoking, confronting, and elevating that which is in our body and our minds, and it can't all mentally be figured out in the moment, but it can somatically get processed in the moment.
Very
That's
cool.
yeah, that's what's so cool about it. I mean, you do your prana haha, you do your pranayamas, you do your laughter, your emotional hygiene practice, just like brushing teeth, and just infusing it into our daily to-dos, just like the atomic habits. Stack it, stack it, stack it, bring it in, and then make life fun while we can. And then when it's not fun, laugh it off so that we can return back to being present and be of service to each other and enjoy our life while we're here, right? Because we don't know. We don't know when we're out of here. And while we're in here, I'd rather laugh than breathe. I would. And I can't do it alone. So that's in essence the other aspect of laughter yoga. It's a community building. It's like in light of Martin Luther King, it's taking a stand for being present, being connected, being intimate, being vulnerable, being joyful, choosing that, to consume that, and to provide that rather than to consume that which seems like doom and gloom. Like we can choose which wolf, we feed. Yeah. But yes, we can't do it alone. I can't be happy by myself. I can laugh for a while by myself. I can do it. But I get paid to laugh, in the morning with someone for 20, 25 minutes every day. I have people that I'm, doing 10 long laughs with every day. Like I have systems put in place so that I don't need to remember to laugh. I'm getting paid to laugh, and it pays itself forwards. It's incredible. And then I laughter coach and I put it into my massage practice and into the yoga classes, and then I get my daughter doing it. So it's an enrollment game that what will create a blue zone, a joyful air, zone where we're living to 100 or beyond, is how vulnerable can we be with each other and how much joy can we share from our own pharmacy rather than reaching out and we need more of this and more of that. It's like, no, to generate it inside out and with our neighbors, make them yabers, like make our colleagues, like, people we actually want to spend time with because we're laughing with them. We know them. It's like drinking wine every single time. You cannot hide long, you know. So that's like, in essence, we cannot be alone in this if we want to create, a new type of epidemic, of joy, of peace, of connection. And I know that's a little idealistic, and I get it in context of wars and all these things. But you know what? It's like being alone after a while gets old, and we get old alone. Um, the youth know, like they want to play with each other. That's the fountain of youth. It's like, how many people can you play with in a day? You want to be young? Go play with like as many people as possible, and you will be transformed.
Be, because that play is a way for us as individuals, again, to accept or process or conduct or metabolize the experience of being human, which can be traumatic,
Yes.
stressful, at least.
Yes.
Right? It's a lot to be here. Right? And we don't know what's going on. We might, maybe somebody does, but by and large, we don't know what's going on. It seems pretty serious. It's stressing me out to be here.
Yes.
And so to give expression to that in your way
Yeah.
is through laughter
Yeah.
and play,
That's right.
and specifically in community as well.
Yes. And yes.
What?
Yeah, I would just say like, and so the children, like you just said, when we're laughing and we're playing and we fall and we get bruised and we go to the hospital and we get stitches and we have, organs, misbehave and do all, and people die in terrible car accidents. And in that moment,
Yeah.
it's not there are different laughs for different moments. I don't laugh like when I find out someone died. I don't laugh right there in most moments. I don't. I pause and feel, and then I'm like, oh. I make sounds. I tone it out, and then in that grief, it does release back into its brother or sister laughter, and then back into the grief and all this. But there's got to be a place of permission to grieve and process together out loud. you know, out loud.
That example, okay, so you hear someone just died,
Yeah.
you do not go straight to laughter.
No.
There is a moment, there is a pause and being with it.
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's the moment of acknowledgement.
Yeah. There may be a laugh of disbelief, like, whoa. But really, I'm just vibrating my diaphragm so that I can be present, because I'm disassociating by, on some level, probably fear of my own death, my family's death, everyone else's death. It's re-triggering all the deaths that have happened. It's like, how do you deal with that in the moment? Sitting with a way, getting in the cold water is a way. And I just find like laughter is just a little bit easier, or making sounds out loud is a little bit easier to just be in the day without having to like go down to my cushion or like go hop into a lake. It's like it's just right here, right now, always available. And it's free. It doesn't seem free. Like, a comedy club, you got to pay to go to a comedy club. But the science in laughter yoga is that laughter done as an exercise is more effective than comedic laughter. That's the science. That's the latest science, is that when you laugh as an exercise, you get more physiological benefits than you do when you laugh when something's funny, even though the mind knows, "Whoa, that was so funny." And maybe you'll have one of those incredible jokes that, right, that like when it happens and it like, like you can't stop. But that is also accessible in laughing on purpose, especially when people start to feel safe and get into the practice of it in community. Then there's another depth level of, like engaging with death, engaging with shame, engaging with like terror, and just being able to, oh, yeah.
What are the physical benefits of laughter?
Yeah. So one, cardiovascularly, it it's an incredible circulation tool. I mean, we're basically working with every single system of our body when we laugh, because hormonally, we're getting all these neurotransmitters that move through our body. Our gut has 90% of our serotonin, our well-being, you know, neurotransmitter. We get that oxytocin blast, which is the same thing that happens when children, to connect, create the connection between mother and child or infant. So we get that sense of safety. So our body, our parasympathetic nervous system, engages the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that basically is getting stimulated when our diaphragm is moving up and down in that fast pattern. That it's It's pranayama. I just call it pranahaha. It's pranahaha. I call it laughter yamas. It's just more fun than
Yeah, can't argue with you there. Yeah.
yeah. And in a yoga class, when I teach it, why are my yoga classes so fun? Because people actually acknowledge that there's another person in the room with them. Most of the time when you're in a yoga class, the way you acknowledge you're in a room with them is like you put your mat next to them, and then you breathe, and maybe you hear each other breathing, you know but you pay in the beginning and you leave and do that, but there's no generally like acknowledgement of, yeah, thank you for showing up and making this happen. When we laugh, we acknowledge each other's presence, both visually, auditorily, and that electromagnetic field that activates all the Heart Math Institute work. Our electromagnetic field is so many times more powerful electrically than our mind that we're emitting that circuit out in our space. So we're actually creating with our heart center. And that is what's so powerful, because then there's generosity and there's faith, there's courage
Yeah.
to hop into any situation, because it's like, well, if I've laughed with you, I know you, you know me. You know me enough.
Mm.
We know each other enough to know if something's a little off. And then I'll ask, like, oh, I know all my laughter clients by the sound of their laughter, what's going on with them. They know exactly where I am.
Okay. So I want to honor time. So I have
Yeah.
I think two more questions, and then
Yeah. Sure.
we'll wrap it up. This is excellent. It's going great.
Yeah.
So in the past, you and I have done calls
Mm-hmm.
where you say, you know, Gabriel, let's get on the phone and
Yep.
let's just laugh about it. And
Yeah.
I've noticed I don't want to do it. I've noticed a real resistance
Yeah.
to laughter, which is an odd thing to say. Who would want more of that? But yet I find myself saying, no, thank you. And it's not conscious, but
Yeah.
I'm unconsciously saying, no, thank you. I'll stay right here. It feels more authentic to wallow in my own misery.
Yeah.
Why,
Why is
why do
that?
I resist that? Yeah, why do I
Yeah.
resist that?
Yeah. Why do we have that like kinky need for like dissatisfaction and that hugging of the like making love to our shadow seems more intriguing and enthralling than like like I love my life and celebrating what's working, or just like laughing about it and having joy and happiness. It seems like, it should be harder, so we like need to make a lot of money to have it, or like have certain situations that think the snapshot, it was called, by this therapist Stutz. It was like a recent Netflix movie. He said the snapshot. We all have a snapshot of what we want life to look like, exactly like this. And if it's not there, then we can't be happy. Whereas this is literally, it's a protest. We're literally protesting for, we're for joy, for
Mm,
our happiness, which is a declaration, and it requires that. And that is energy. Like going to the gym is energy to do it. Ugh, going outside on cold days, it's energy. We obviously know it, but there's inherent resistance to everything. So this is no different than anything else that we have resistance to.
got it. Yeah. This is the question I was trying to ask earlier that I just couldn't formulate.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it might not even be a question, it's just a point you're making that I'm really appreciating.
Yep.
The irony is to stay miserable is actually an opting out. That's the easy way. The hard way, the warrior way,
Yeah.
is to actually engage and laugh.
Yes. Because you're engaging with what is, with life, or
Yes,
disassociating and pretending that this is not happening and it should be different.
yes.
And that's absurd. It's crazy.
All right, last question before you
Yes.
have to go.
Yes.
What is laughter? Where does it come from?
I
I
think
know
it's
those
a
are two
gift.
questions.
I think it's a gift of God. I think it's like, in essence, this power. I say God in this way that's personal for me. Like, it's a gift. It's a gift. In essence, like it's the ultimate equalizer, because it's across all cultures. So there's something about the language of laughter, that it's a language of love. It's so simple. It's so simple. It's so simple that it hurts. It shouldn't be so simple for the mind. And that's why it creates so much, like, it's got to be funny or else I can't do it. I'm not allowed to have it. So laughter is really, it's the fountain. It's the
Hmm.
fountain. It's that chalice. It's that goblet. It's like that elixir of life, really. It's known as soma in some. It's just that nectar, but it is the alchemist's, you know, practice right there. But it's something that isn't meant to be done by one. It's for all to do together. That's the real magic of it. Is it's a community builder. It's activism, laughtervism, really. It's
Mm,
really that. It's not supposed to just be me laughing by myself. That's not it.
mm,
It's actually just a way to have our life back. Feel safe and that we belong where we are. If we're laughing with each other, then we want to be where we are.
mm.
If we don't, it's like, time to move. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, what a gift.